All right, before I get started today, I just want to say that there's some work going on right next to where I am. And so if you hear dup, 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 that's just the work. It's not like something that is going off nearby. But this week, I'm continuing what I have been doing for the last few weeks, which is looking forward to what is coming and what's coming. Yep, next year. Thank God, right? I mean, 2022. Ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. Well, what can you say? Yeah, there's going to be years like that, and you can look forward to 2023. All right. So last week I told you about how I believe that Tesla could be a $1,000 stock. And this week, I want to tell you about a stock that is currently trading for about $6 that I believe can get to $100. I would, with a little bit of trepidation, big word, make this my number one stock. Not a prediction, also not investment advice. Oh, yeah, this is the sheet with all of the disclaimers. Not investment advice, has risk, not guaranteed, can lose value. Anything you do based on what you hear in this video, any videos on this channel, treat it as engagement, information, opinion. Some people laugh, find it entertainment, but can't control what people do. So you do something with it, you make money, you lose money, you win, you lose, on you, your money, your responsibility. All right, so why am I focusing on this number one stock for 2023? All right, let's start from the very, very beginning. What sector or industry is like really hot right now? Like if you go and like read, or you know what, go and talk to folks, like go talk to kids, and ask them like what's like really like getting you all excited, what mega trend, what like hype word is getting you all like hot. And I can tell you that in my opinion, from talking to lots of people, from reading 10, 12 hours plus for every day, being on Twitter, thinking about this, using some of these things, the biggest development in 2022 is in artificial intelligence. Yes, this is in artificial intelligence, AI. This is a field that has been long rumored to be the next big thing. And finally, the big thing is here. And if you haven't heard about it, it's the emergence of this AI agent. I don't know what you'd call it. There's not yet like a word for it. And it's called Chat GPT. Chat GPT. Yeah. Not the greatest name, but hey, people didn't think Google was a great name when they came out with it, just to be fair. So what is this Chat GPT? What is this Chat GPT? Well, rather than putting up a very long, complicated thing, let's put up what Chat GPT, which is made by a company called OpenAI. This is what they say about it. So if you want the TLDR version of it, essentially it provides you basic informed conversation with an intelligence that is artificial, like that's like a robot, rather than another person or another human being. I mean, in its most basic sense, that's what ChatGPT does. It provides you in response to a question, a query, a phrase, it will give you basic, informed, conversational intelligence. And by intelligence, we're talking about like the definition of intelligence, meaning that when you speak to somebody, you expect them to know a certain number of things about a certain subject, for them to be able to converse with you, to have an informed conversation about it. And that's what Chat GPT does. And truthfully, if you go and check it out, and I have checked it out, it's kind of amazing, amazing. And already Chat GPT is being used for coding. I know people that are proofing their code using Chat GPT, and they're like, this is super legit, super legit. People are using it to write reports. I have tried this and it's fairly good. Some of the information is a little bit too basic for me, and it lacks a certain level of nuance that you need, at least for our reports, that like sort of incorporates a little bit of psychology and, you know, I call it pattern finding. Like some of these small nuances it misses, but in terms of basic research and fact finding, it's pretty good. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. For some subjects, even a 9 out of 10. People are using it for macros to write worksheets. I read an analysis of someone that put together an entire financial spreadsheet, essentially just laid it out for ChatGPT, and they were able to essentially do this, effectively do this. And of course, like, I mean, this is the dream of kids around the world. Hey, kids, homework done by ChatGPT. Please do not get me in trouble with your teachers or your principal. But nonetheless, ChatGPT, killer app for homework. Just saying. And then, scarily, for lawyers and people that do sort of basic text-based office document work that doesn't require sort of any additional sort of element to it. So a standard contract, a standard lease, a standard agreement, ChatGPT, yeah, that's a totally killer app. So basically, ChatGPT can replicate many routine-driven, time-consuming, detail-oriented tasks that don't require judgment, choice, or layered decision making. In other words, kind of like what I was talking about with the report writing, like, which is that, for example, in investing, the piece of information that you get needs to be considered sometimes within a certain context relative to an industry, or sometimes it needs to be considered in context relative to macro conditions, or maybe within the context of like, does the market know and understand, is this priced in? What is the right way to look at it? So that's sort of more nuanced and requires judgment and sort of like a layer of decision making where this is where human beings truthfully excel, and where artificial intelligence, if I'm right, it is going to struggle to ever get there, or if it does, it might get to very simple levels of it. But for just routine stuff, this ChatGPT is pretty awesome. All right. So what's the investment play here? Because, you know, that's what this channel is about, right? I mean, we do talk about investing. So ChatGPT is privately owned by a company called OpenAI. So it's kind of like when Google first started, it was also a private company, and eventually they came public, IPO, where regular people could invest in it in about 2004. So maybe OpenAI, somewhere in the next few years, will come public. And what do you know? This is an Elon Musk company. I mean, how does Elon have this much time? I mean, Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter, Neuralink, Boring Company, OpenAI. I mean, just, yeah. So my experience on when you have like this big breakthrough development that comes through, and ChatGPT, in my opinion, my judgment, breakthrough development. My experience is that these kinds of transformational moments for a technology, in this case, artificial intelligence, tend to get manifested in the stock market. In other words, this knowledge of Chat GPT is spreading very, very quickly. Obviously, you're going to hear about it from this video, and you should go check it out. You just go into Google and type Chat GPT, and you will find it very, very quickly. It is going to spread like wildfire, and if the past is any indication, you're going to see a stock market response. We saw something similar happen in the 1990s when we had a ton of search engines. I mean, who remembers Yahoo was one of the very first search engines. I think Alta Vista might have been, but they were at some point in time 10, 12, 15 search engines, as everybody felt like this was the way to monetize the internet. And there was a stock market frenzy around companies that participated in this, had anything to do with it in any way, shape, or form. There was a complete, utter boom in the 1990s that obviously ended in a bubble, but nonetheless, there were like 5 years when there was like enormous, extraordinary money to be made. We saw this again in 1999, when we announced the decoding of the human genome, and biotechnology stocks, genomic stocks, just absolutely exploded. I mean, we're talking about like thousands and thousands of percent of gains. So what I expect to happen in 2023 is Wall Street's going to get busy. Yeah, I'm going to get busy. The investment bankers right now are reaching out to every single AI company that has been started in the last 3 to 5 years and going to be like, hey, this Chat GPT, it's getting around. Everybody wants a piece of it. People are going to want to invest in AI. This is your moment to go public. Get your books together, get your organization together, start to make it look good so we can bring it public. So we're going to see AI IPOs specialized by industry, by sector, by particular knowledge sectors. We're going to get a lot of stuff. And then current AI companies will also get a big boost. And there are already a number of companies that either use AI for their operations. I can think of a number of biotech companies that, for example, are using AI agents to go through 70 years worth of research to try and sort of, build a case for why a drug may work in more than one disease. And they can prove that out. And if that's possible, then they can reduce the cost of testing, reduce the amount of time it takes to test, and also use currently approved drugs for other diseases. I know at least 1 or 2 companies that are pursuing that. So you'll start to see all of the companies that have allied themselves with this technology, artificial intelligence, start to get sort of investment dollars. In other words, stock market investors can be like, AI is starting to unfold. This is clearly a very powerful technology. A company that is using this is likely to jump to the forefront of their industry, of their sector. Let's go invest in it. And what I believe it's going to stimulate is a bull market for artificial intelligence. In other words, stocks associated with AI, they are going to take off as people try and find a way to benefit from what they see is obviously the next big thing, which in my judgment is definitely setting up to be AI. So as I mentioned earlier, there are lots of AI related stocks in different sectors. And if you're looking for companies like that, please check into subscriptions from my company. atgdigital.media is the website. There's a link in the description below. There's also a link to my Substack where you can read about stocks like this for free. Check us out before choosing a subscription. Subscriptions start at $9.99. So please check us out. You can also, of course, support us by subscribing to this channel and giving us a thumbs up. But there is already, and this is the payoff for this video, but there's already one clear market leader in AI and is already in the stock market today. And it is by a lot. Now, they don't play in the same sector as ChatGPT. They're more in the government and business sector. But this company, it dominates in licensing its AI technology to sort of big companies and governments. And it's a lead because I think they started about 12 years ago. Peter Thiel was one of the co-founders of this company. Many of you may know the company I'm talking about, but their lead is now at this point absolutely massive. I mean, if you go and look them up after I tell you the company, you'll see that while they can't tell you exactly what they were involved in, they say that, they've been credited for sort of saving a lot of lives, for being used by the US government, and I'm certain by various companies to save money or to pursue opportunities. So the big reveal moment, what is this number one stock for what I believe is going to be the next big thing in 2023? That's going to drive money and investors into the stock market. Well, PLTR, Palantir Technologies. Palantir Technologies. So a little bit about Palantir Technologies. You know what they basically do. Artificial intelligence. They essentially license what you'd consider to be software. I'll call it an AI agent that can be embedded into your decision processes, into your business processes, to use ways of thinking about it, to sort of go through data, to try and help you make good decisions, really based on everything that everything that is out there in the public domain, and then using sort of decision frameworks to try and get to the best decision under the circumstances. All right. So Palantir, ticker symbol PLTR. I've been going on this channel for a while, which is that every one of you should be aware of the market capitalization of a company. Everyone is aware of the stock price, and people think that the stock price represents the value of a company. But the stock price is just one part of this, which is that you also need to know the number of shares. So if you multiply the stock price times the number of shares, you get to market capitalization. So it's a $13 billion company. In the scale of the stock market, still fairly small. Not tiny, 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 like some of the ones I've talked about before in my videos. But Apple is a $2.2 trillion company. This is a $13 billion company. So Apple is sort of like the moon. And, Palantir is very much like, on Earth. Yeah, it's a way, way small company. I mean, it would have to, for it to become Apple size, it would have to go by not 10 times, like 100 times, 200 times. So it'll be a lot of upside if AI becomes as big a technology as, say, the smartphone. And I'm right about Palantir. It got to $2.2 trillion. Well, you'd be pretty happy if you stayed in the stock long enough, and you'd make a lot of money. All right. What about a few details about the financials of Palantir? Well, they got plenty of cash. Right now, with people talking about a recession, with the stock market having crashed, especially for stocks like Palantir, cash in the bank is pretty important. They actually make money on the basis of that they have operating cash flow that is positive. Many people focus on net profits. This is something that I look at. I find that if this is true, for the most part, it means that the company is making money. And in 2022, they're set to generate $1.9 billion in sales. So about $2 billion approximately, which is, pretty good. AI, remember, as a technology, fairly young. And in terms of its use, because everyone today is quite accustomed to using Microsoft Word or these software packages. But just imagine implementing a software that helps makes decisions. I mean, you have to change your entire organization. You have to change the entire way you think. So this is a very, very young field. And this company has put itself right up there. It's sort of like being like Microsoft, where they came out very early with an operating system. And as a result, even today, they dominate half of the personal computer market as a result of it. All right. So let's talk about the stock. So Palantir, when I checked yesterday, was at $6.45 per share, which, as I mentioned, gives it a market cap of $13.4 billion approximately, which is a price to sales of about 7 times. They've got about 2 billion and change in shares out there. In other words, that's what the company is cut up into in terms of ownership slices. And then they hit a high in January of 2021 of $45. So that is closing in on nearly 2 years ago. Their high was $45. And at that price, they had a market capitalization of $93 billion. So Palantir has crashed. Palantir, the stock, has crashed with the growth stock market crash. But I believe it could, remember, not a guarantee, not investment advice, my opinion, right? Could see $100 in 2023. At $100, it would have a market capitalization of about $207 billion. And yeah, that's it. Just kidding. Of course, I'm going to tell you why I think that, right? I mean, it'd be silly. So, all right. So how does Palantir get to $100? Well, one thing that if you read their last quarterly earnings statement, they will tell you that they are seeing acceleration and adoption really across geographies, across companies. In other words, more people are beginning to use Palantir and their existing customers are using it more. So both of it lead to rising levels of sales. The second thing is that we are entering a macro environment where growth is going to be very, very scarce. Companies that can show continual steady growth of 20%, 30%, or 40% are really going to be like diamonds, like, something that you cannot find. And in that environment, the price of a stock that has consistent, regular growth, like Palantir, in my judgment, is going to get a much higher price to sales multiple. I told you earlier that it's currently trading at a 7 times multiple. And also, when you consider that this is, in my judgment, the dominant company in AI. So in that environment, when we move to a new bull market, they will start to value, of course, a dominant company that has steady growth, but is also something that is, with AI being this big theme that is out there, it's going to get a premium level of valuation. So it's a mix of growth, it's a mix of macro conditions, and it's a mix of how the stock is going to be treated in the bull market. So remember, we tend to, especially in bear markets and when things are low, we tend to look backwards. But in bull markets, markets look forward and they anticipate. And let's just say, I'm going to say that they have a 30% CAGR. And what is this? A compounded annual growth rate. In other words, 30% per year. So essentially every 3-ish years, you're doubling your revenue. So in bull markets, this kind of scarce, dominant kind of growth company would trade for 15 to 20 times sales. So even at its current price, so 20 times 2 billion would make it a $40 billion company. It's currently trading at 13 billion. So that's more than double already, and sort of justifies approximately where it was trading in January 2021, because it was a bull market. And in a bull market, people look forward. In a bear market, people tend to look backward. In a market where people are highly focused on a new and breakthrough technology, this kind of company can trade for, I said 30 times sales, but, in a bull market, very, very high growth, dominant, premium, highly topical, technology-based companies can trade for 30 times earnings, 40 times earnings. So let's just say you double over the next 3 years. You go from 2 billion to 4 billion by, say, 2025. 4 billion times, let's say, 20 would be an $80 billion stock times 30, $120 billion stock. So you can see at current valuations, we could get to $100, because remember, markets, once they have confidence in how the future is going to unfold, we'll start to anticipate where the stock and its business are growing and bid the price up. So that's my video for this week. Number one stock for 2023 is Palantir Technologies. Why? Because I believe that artificial intelligence is going to have its sort of moment. It's sort of like breakthrough moment. It's moment where everyone realized that this is going to be a big thing. This is sort of like the next wave of software that companies, organizations, and eventually all of us, even as people, will start to implement in our lives. It is going to cause people to push into the stock market, search for artificial intelligence plays. And I believe that when they go and do that, they are going to find that the dominant, the most premium company out there is Palantir Technologies. All right, if you like this video, you know what to do. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and come back again. This is Paul saying bye.